I'm going to show you my favorite method for adding borders to a quilt. And this goes for any quilt. This is what I use all the time, but it's especially useful for this quilt that we've sewn on point and we've got these triangle edges. And it's really easy for those quilts to get kind of misshapen. So using this border technique will make sure that your quilt is nice and tightly squared and you don't have wavy borders. And it's so easy. It's the easiest thing ever. So here's what I've done. I've sewn my border strips together end to end. So this is 2 widths of fabric. Trim the selvages, sew them end to end. And then I'll just stack them on top of each other. So these are gonna go on both sides. This is a square obviously, but I would do my 2 long sides first if I had a rectangular quilt. With the square, it doesn't matter. So it's just gonna be these 2 sides. And then just stack them on top of each other and make sure those ends are nice and flush next to the top of the quilt, the edge of the quilt. And then I will just run this border, these 2 borders, right through the middle of the quilt. And there's a reason I use the middle as my guide and not one of the sides. And that is because the center of the quilt is going to be tighter. The edges of the quilt is where things tend to kind of spread, like just if our seam kind of runs small or just for a variety of reasons. The center of the quilt is tighter. So if I use that for measuring, I'm going to get the best size of a tight square quilt. And then just have a pin right here. I just stick a pin in that end. And I will just take that, I actually pinned it to the quilt, let's fix that. And then I'll take this to my sewing machine and rotary cut right where that pin is. So I'll walk you through that part. And then how I pin the sides, because these might be slightly shorter than the actual edges of the quilt. So let me walk you through that next part. Here's my border strips. Here's where I pinned what I measured. And I will just put my ruler down right next to that pin, pull it out, and rotary cut so I have a nice 90-degree edge. Okay, so now I need to pin these strips to the side of my quilt. And the first thing I'm going to do is find the center. And it's, again, so easy. Just fold them in half. Here is the center, and just give a finger press to crease it, because this will help me pin to the side of the quilt. Get things out of the way here. Okay, so here is my quilt top. And I'll do the same thing. Find the center of the side that I'm pinning to. Finger press. Oh wait, let's just triple check. Sorry. Yeah, finger press. This is so unscientific and it's so simple and doable. Okay, so there's my center. Here's the center of my strip. It's hard to see because it's just that finger crease. And pin first at the center. Then set this aside and do the other side. Pin the ends. And then I will just gently pin the strip to the rest of the sides, just evenly spacing. Now, the reason I do it this way is because this, again, because this might have stretched because of just the squaring up something this big, it might be slightly larger. And I actually kind of don't mind if it is, because this method of using the borders is what's going to ease that together. So I just find that center again and pin, and just gently ease that bottom layer underneath the border strip. And so if this is just slightly big, like it's kind of gapping just a little, that's going to be okay. When you go to sew it through your sewing machine, make the shorter side on the top, the longer on the bottom, because then the feed dogs will gently ease that slightly longer edge through the machine, and you'll get a really nice even sewing that seam and without a lot of puckers. So that is the tip. Again, so I'll just walk you through again on this side. Come and finish the pinning. Okay, you can see a little bit that this is just a little bit shorter than that edge of the quilt, and that's totally okay. Just use that same method. This is kind of stretching just a little, but if I pin it evenly across the whole side, the whole strip, it will sew together so nice. And then you're going to repeat this same method. I'll do both sides. Sew the borders on, press from the top, like we talked about pressing the strip sets, so you can really get the nose of your iron into that seam and it's nice and flat. I like to press my seam allowances away from the border, toward the quilt. So, and you just are going to repeat this same process on all four sides. So once this is pressed, I go lay it down, and then the next I will lay out the border strips going perpendicular across the center of the quilt with the two borders on either side. Just repeat that process. That should make sense. There is a link in the pattern that shows this method if you want a refresher, you want photos to walk through the process. Okay, so I just want to walk you through this last part. I've sewn on the inside border on all four sides. I've sewn on 2 of the outside border strips on opposite sides, and I'm just going to prepare and then sew this last border strip for the 2 remaining borders, outside borders. And you can see I've laid it across the center of the quilt, put a pin in. I'm going to cut and trim at that point, and then use the same process to sew finish all 4 sides of these borders. Okay, here's a look at perfectly square borders with such an easy shortcut. Saves so much time in your quilt. Turns out great, perfectly square. This one's ready to head off to the quilter.